The massive warship floated in the darkness of space like a metal mountain. Inside its command center, Admiral Korthax stood before a glowing map of the galaxy. His purple scales shined under the bright lights as he pointed one of his 4 clawed fingers at a small blue planet. Earth, he said to his officers. For 200 years, every species in the galaxy has avoided this place. They act like scared children, afraid of the monsters under their beds. Commander Vexenil shifted nervously, her tentacles curling and uncurling. She had served under Korthax for 30 years and had never seen him this determined. Admiral, the Galactic Council has forbidden anyone from going near Earth. They say terrible things happen to ships that enter that region. Korthax laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. The Galactic Council is weak. They fear our empire because we are strong. We have conquered 17 star systems. We have the finest warships in the galaxy. Why should we fear one small planet? But sir, another officer spoke up, the Altarians sent 12 scout ships to Earth 50 years ago. None returned. The Procyon Collective lost an entire exploration fleet there. No one knows what happened to them. I'll tell you what happened, Korthax said, his voice growing louder. They were weak. They were careless. The Altarians probably crashed into each other. The Procyon Collective probably got lost. These stories are just excuses for failure. The Admiral walked to the large window that showed the stars outside. His empire, the Zalathi Empire, controlled vast regions of space. They had defeated every enemy they had faced. Their technology was advanced, their weapons powerful, their soldiers fearless. Yet this one small planet remained untouched, protected by nothing but old stories and warnings. Look at the data, Korthax commanded. A hologram appeared showing Earth. What do we see? A planet that has barely learned to use nuclear power. Their spacecraft can hardly leave their own atmosphere. They still fight among themselves with chemical explosives. They don't even have faster-than-light travel. The officers studied the information. Everything Korthax said appeared to be true. Earth's radio signals showed a primitive civilization. Their satellites were basic. Their space station looked like it might fall apart at any moment. We need resources, Korthax continued. Earth has water, minerals, and 7 billion beings we can use as workers. One planet and our empire becomes twice as strong. The Galactic Council cannot stop us. They're too afraid to fight us directly. Commander Vexenil looked at the data again. Something bothered her, but she couldn't say what. Admiral, why would the Council protect such a weak planet? It doesn't make sense. Politics, Korthax answered simply. They use Earth as a symbol. They say, look, we protect the weak species. But they really just want to limit our expansion. They fear what we will become when we control this entire section of the galaxy. The Admiral turned to face his officers. I have made my decision. We will take 300 of our best warships. We will enter Earth's region. We will conquer the planet in less than 1 rotation of their sun. And we will show the entire galaxy that the Zalathi Empire cannot be stopped by superstition and fear. The officers exchanged glances. 300 warships was a massive force. It was enough to destroy most civilizations completely. If Earth was really as primitive as it seemed, it would be the easiest conquest in their empire's history. Prepare the fleet, Korthax ordered. Send a message to all our ships. Tell them we leave in 3 days. As his officers hurried to follow, his commands, Korthax remained at the window. He thought about the glory that would come from this victory. His name would be remembered forever as the admiral who broke the Galactic Council's silly rules and expanded the Empire into forbidden space. 3 days later, the Zalathi Armada gathered at the edge of their territory. 300 warships, each one carrying thousands of warriors and enough weapons to destroy cities. The flagship, called Dominion's Pride, led the formation. It was the largest warship ever built by the Zalathi, a symbol of their power. Before entering hyperspace, Korthax ordered a message sent on all galactic frequencies. He wanted everyone to know what was happening. This is Admiral Korthax of the Zalathi Empire. We are entering Earth's region to claim it for our empire. The Council's prohibition means nothing to us. Any who try to stop us will be destroyed. The war. Message spread across the galaxy instantly. On dozens of worlds, beings watched their screens in shock. Some felt fear, others felt excitement. Many wondered if this would finally reveal Earth's secret. Deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, in a facility that no satellite could detect, lights began turning on. Screens that had been dark for years flickered to life. In mountain bunkers hidden, across every continent, alarms sounded softly. Above Earth's atmosphere on the dark side of the moon that always faced away from the planet, massive doors that looked like crater floors began to vibrate slightly. Captain Jake Morrison was drinking coffee in his office when the alert came through. He was a normal-looking human man in his 50s, with gray hair and tired eyes. His uniform was simple black with no decorations. He set down his cup and walked calmly to the command center of Fortress Luna, the moon base that no telescope on Earth had ever seen. "Sir," Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez said as he entered. She was young, maybe 25, with dark hair tied back in a strict bun. "We've received the Zalati transmission, 300 ships, just as our intelligence predicted." Jake looked at the main screen showing the enemy fleet. "They really brought their best ships. They're not taking any chances." "Should we try to warn them?" Amy asked. "Tell them to turn back?" Jake thought for a moment. Earth had remained hidden for so long. The galaxy thought they were primitive, weak, barely able to reach their own moon. It was a careful act that had protected them and their secret for centuries. "No," Jake said finally. "They've been warned for 200 years. Every species knows to avoid Earth's region. They chose not to listen. Activate Protocol 7. Amy's eyes widened. "Protocol 7? That's everything, sir." "Yes," Jake confirmed. "Wake the sleeping giants. Alert all stations. Bring the Ghost Fleet online. Tell Mars Colony to power up their railguns. And Amy," he paused looking at the young officer, "tell everyone this is not a drill. Earth is about to remind the galaxy why our region is off limits." As Amy rushed to carry out the orders, Jake remained watching the screen. The Zalathi fleet entered hyperspace, disappearing in flashes of light. They would arrive at Earth's solar system in 6 hours. 6 hours to prepare for a battle that would change everything. Around the solar system, things that had been hidden for decades began to move. On Mars, massive cannons emerged from what looked like natural canyons. In the Seu asteroid belt, rocks that had floated peacefully for years revealed themselves to be camouflaged weapons platforms. Near Jupiter, space itself seemed to ripple as ships hidden in folded dimensions prepared to emerge. But the biggest secret waited on the moon. Fortress Luna was not just a military base. It was home to 12,000 of Earth's finest pilots, all volunteers who had undergone genetic modification to fly spacecraft that would kill a normal human. They had trained in secret for their entire adult lives, waiting for this moment. Jake walked through the base, watching as pilots ran to their ships. These weren't the crude rockets that Earth showed the galaxy. These were vessels built with knowledge gathered from 100 different species, powered by technology that the Zalathi couldn't imagine. "All pilots, this is Captain Morrison," Jake said over the communication system. "Today we show the galaxy who we really are. Today we protect our home. Today we protect our secret. Make them regret coming here." The pilots cheered, their voices echoing through the base. They had waited so long for this moment. Earth had played weak for centuries, but that act was about to end. As the hours passed and the Zalathi fleet drew closer, Earth prepared for war. Not the primitive war with nuclear weapons that the galaxy expected, but something far more terrible. The Zalathi thought they were hunting a mouse. They were about to discover they had awakened a dragon. The warning had been there for 200 years. Stay away from Earth's region. The Zalathi Empire, in their arrogance, had chosen to ignore it. They would soon learn why that warning existed. They would learn that humanity's greatest trick was not hiding their weapons or their ships. It was hiding what they had become. The Zalathi Armada burst out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system in perfect formation. 300 warships arranged in attack patterns that had won them countless battles. Admiral Korthax stood on the bridge of the Dominions, pride feeling the familiar thrill of approaching victory. His purple scales gleamed as he studied the tactical displays showing the blue planet ahead. "Scan everything," he ordered. "I want to know every satellite, every ship, every weapon they have." The scanning officers worked quickly, their instruments examining the solar system. The data that came back made several of them laugh. Earth had exactly what they expected. Old satellites held together with basic metal and wire. A space station that looked like it might break if someone pushed it too hard. Some primitive probes scattered around nearby planets. Nothing that could threaten even one Zalathi warship. "Pathetic," Korthak said, loud enough for the entire bridge to hear. "Their most advanced spacecraft appears to be a metal can with chemical rockets attached. My grandson's toy ship is more sophisticated." Commander Vexenil studied her own screens, her tentacles moving nervously. "Admiral, I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from Earth's moon. They're very faint, but nothing," Korthax interrupted. "It's probably just their mining equipment. They dig holes in their moon looking for minerals. Focus on the planet. I want to know their military positions." The commander wanted to investigate further, but she knew better than to argue with Korthax when he was in this mood. She turned her attention to Earth itself. The planet's defenses were laughable. Some missile silos that could barely reach orbit. Aircraft that still used jet engines. Ships on their oceans that moved slowly and could only fight on the surface of the water. "Begin transmission," Korthax commanded. "Let them know their new masters have arrived." The communication officer opened all channels. The Admiral's message would reach every radio, television, and computer on Earth. He wanted every human to hear his words. "Humans of Earth?" Korthax began, his voice booming with authority. "I am Admiral Korthax of the Zalathi Empire. Your planet and all its resources now belong to us. You will surrender immediately and prepare to serve the Empire. Your leaders will report to us within one rotation of your planet. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species. You are primitive. You are weak. You cannot fight us. Surrender, and you will live as our servants. Fight, and you will not live at all." The message ended, and Korthax waited. He expected Earth's leaders to respond quickly, begging for mercy, offering their surrender. Instead, there was silence for several minutes. Then a single transmission came from an encrypted source that their computers couldn't locate. On the main screen, a human male appeared. He looked ordinary, perhaps 40 years old, with short gray hair and calm blue eyes. He wore a simple black uniform with no visible rank or decoration. Behind him was a plain gray wall with no windows or identifying features. "Admiral Korthax," the human said in a steady voice. "My name is Colonel Dan Foster. I speak for Earth's Strategic Defense Initiative. We have received your message. We must respectfully decline your offer." Korthax stared at the screen in disbelief. Several of his officers actually gasped. No one had ever simply declined surrender when faced with a Zalathi invasion fleet. "You decline," Korthax said slowly, as if he hadn't heard correctly. "You have seen our fleet? You understand we can turn your cities to ash?" Dan nodded calmly. "We understand what you believe you can do. However, Earth is not interested in becoming part of your empire. You have 10 minutes to withdraw your fleet beyond the orbit of Neptune. This is your only warning." The bridge of the Dominion's pride fell completely silent. Then Korthax began to laugh. It started small but grew until his whole body shook with amusement. 10 minutes! This primitive threatens us with a deadline. Do you have any idea who you're speaking to, human? "I know exactly who you are," Dan replied, his expression never changing. "You are Admiral Korthax of the Zalathi Empire. You have conquered 17 star systems. Your flagship is armed with plasma cannons, antimatter torpedoes, and shields that can withstand a direct hit from a nuclear weapon. You have 300 ships and approximately 1 million warriors. We know everything about you, Admiral. The question is, do you know anything about us?" Something in the human's tone made Vexenil's tentacles curl tighter. "Admiral," she said urgently, "I'm detecting massive energy spikes throughout the system. Something is happening." 9 minutes. "Admiral," Dan said calmly. Then the transmission ended. Korthax's amusement turned to anger. "Prepare all weapons. If they want to die fighting, we'll grant their wish. Target their major cities. I want to make an example of them." But before the weapons could charge, alarms began screaming across the bridge. "Admiral," the sensor officer shouted. "The moon, Earth's moon, it's opening." On the tactical display, Earth's moon was transforming. Massive sections of what appeared to be crater floors were actually enormous doors, and they were sliding open. From within emerged ships unlike anything in the Zalathi database. They were sleek, angular, and seemed to bend light around them, making them difficult to see even with advanced sensors. "Impossible," Korthax breathed. "How did we not detect them?" More alarm sounded. "Admiral, Mars is powering up some kind of weapon system. Multiple platforms in the asteroid belt are coming online. We're detecting ships emerging from nowhere, sir. They're appearing from folded space throughout the system." The tactical display became crowded with red markers indicating enemy vessels, hundreds of them, appearing from hidden positions throughout the solar system. But these weren't the primitive rockets Earth had shown the galaxy. These ships moved with impossible speed and precision, accelerating in ways that should have killed any living pilot. From Fortress Luna, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez coordinated the fighter launches. Ghost Fleet is away. 12,000 Prometheus-class fighters launching. European Division reports 8,000 ready to launch on your command. Jake Morrison watched the deployment from the command center. Everything was proceeding exactly as they had practiced thousands of times. "Tell our pilots to remember their training. The Zalathi won't be expecting our capabilities. Use that surprise." On the bridge of the Dominion's Pride, Commander Vexnil's voice cracked with fear. "Admiral, their technology. These readings can't be correct. They're using controlled singularities for propulsion. They have weapons that manipulate gravity itself. This is beyond anything the Galactic Council has." Korthax's pride finally began to crack as he watched Earth's true military might reveal itself. The moon wasn't just a moon. It was the largest military fortress he had ever seen. Mars wasn't just a red planet. It was covered in weapon installations. The asteroid belt wasn't just rocks. It was a defensive line that could shred any fleet that tried to pass. "How?" he demanded. "How did they hide this?" The answer came in the form of an attack, not from the warships, but from Earth itself. Thousands of small objects launched from the planet's surface, accelerating to speeds that shouldn't be possible. They were simple metal rods, nothing more, but moving at 90% the speed of light. "Evasive action," Korthax screamed. But it was too late. The relativistic weapons hit 20 Zalathi ships simultaneously. The kinetic energy at that speed turned the metal rods into something more destructive than any bomb. Ships didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, transformed into expanding clouds of superheated gas and debris. The Dominion's Pride shook violently as 3 rods punched through its shields and hull like they weren't even there. Atmosphere rushed out through the holes. Lights flickered and died. In seconds, the most powerful warship in the Zalathi Empire had been reduced to a crippled wreck. "Return fire," Korthax roared. "All ships, all weapons, destroy them." The Zalathi fleet responded with everything they had. Plasma cannons filled space with green death. Antimatter torpedoes streaked toward Earth ships. Missile swarms launched by the thousands. For a moment, it looked like overwhelming firepower might win the day. Then the human ships began to dance. Captain Lisa Chen commanded the Earth defense, ship retribution. Her neural interface connected her directly to the ship's systems, allowing her to control it like her own body. She felt the Zalathi weapons firing, felt the trajectories of every projectile, and her ship moved to avoid them. "All Alpha Wing," she commanded her squadron. "Execute Starburst Pattern 7. Show them why nobody conquers Earth." 12 fighters broke formation, each pilot genetically modified to survive accelerations that would turn a normal human into liquid. They carved through the Zalathi formation, their antimatter torpedoes finding weak points in alien shields with perfect precision. Where Zalathi technology relied on brute force, humanity had developed something different. predictive quantum computers that could calculate enemy actions before they happened. The battle turned into a massacre. Zalathi ships fired at targets that were no longer there. Their shields, designed for conventional warfare, couldn't adapt to weapons that manipulated fundamental forces of physics. Their proud warriors watched helplessly as humans in powered armor flew through space without ships, cutting through hull plating with handheld devices that generated controlled black holes. Admiral Korthax watched helplessly as human boarding craft attached to what remained of his flagship. The Dominion's pride, once the symbol of Zalathi power, now drifted in space with holes torn through its hull and half its systems offline. Around him, the wreckage of his fleet floated like metal clouds against the stars. In less than 2 hours, everything had changed. The boarding craft cut through the hull with lasers that seemed to ignore the ship's armor completely. 3 humans in powered armor stepped through the breach. They moved with confidence, their weapons lowered but ready. Their armor was unlike anything Korthax had seen, seeming to shift and flow like liquid metal while maintaining its solid form. The lead human removed her helmet, revealing a young woman with short blonde hair and green eyes. She couldn't have been older than 30 Earth years, yet she carried herself like a veteran warrior. Admiral Korthax, I'm Major Kate Johnson, Earth Defense Forces. Please come with us. There are things you need to see. Korthax wanted to refuse, but what choice did he have? His weapons were destroyed, his fleet was captured, and his empire was too far away to help. He followed the humans through his broken ship, seeing his crew members sitting in groups guarded by more armored humans. None of his warriors were fighting. They all looked as shocked as he felt. They brought him to a human shuttle that was docked with his ship. Inside, the technology was clearly advanced but strangely simple in design. No wasted space, no decorations to show status, just functional equipment that worked perfectly. The shuttle detached and began moving toward one of the larger human vessels. Commander Vexenil was brought aboard as well, her tentacles curled tightly in distress. "Admiral," she whispered, "their technology, it's impossible. The energy readings don't match any known physics." Kate Johnson overheard and smiled slightly. "Not impossible, Commander. Just different. You'll understand soon." The shuttle docked with a human warship called the Defiance. Inside, Korthax expected to find a military vessel filled with weapons and soldiers. Instead, he found something that confused him even more. The corridors were decorated with plants from dozens of different worlds. He saw artwork that looked Altarian, heard music that sounded like Procyon harmonies, and smelled food that reminded him of Venari cuisine. They were brought to a large conference room with a view of Earth through massive windows. The blue planet hung in space, looking peaceful and harmless. It was hard to believe this world had just destroyed the most powerful invasion fleet in the galaxy. Colonel Dan Foster entered the room, followed by several other humans and, to Korthax's complete shock, beings from other species. He recognized an Altarian, tall and crystalline, a Procyon, with their distinctive blue fur, a Venari, their 6 arms folded calmly. These were species that had supposedly lost ships near Earth, never to be heard from again. "Please sit," Dan said, gesturing to chairs that had been modified to accommodate different body types. "I imagine you have questions." "Questions?" Korthax exploded, his pride finally overcoming his shock. "You just destroyed my fleet with impossible weapons. You have species here that were supposed to be dead. What is this place?" Dan remained calm. "This place, Admiral, is sanctuary. Earth is not what the galaxy believes it to be. We are not primitive. We never were. We are the guardians of something precious." A holographic display activated in the center of the table. It showed Earth's history, but not the version the galaxy knew. The images showed ships arriving in secret, carrying refugees from destroyed worlds. Species fleeing genocide, escaping collapsed empires, running from persecution. They all came to Earth, and Earth took them in. 5,000 years ago, Dan explained, humanity was indeed primitive. We had just discovered agriculture. Then the first refugees arrived, the Kalar, fleeing the destruction of their homeworld. They crashed on Earth, their ship damaged beyond repair. They had advanced technology but few numbers. Humanity had numbers, but no technology. The display showed ancient humans and alien beings working together, sharing knowledge, building in secret. "We could have conquered you," the Altarian in the room spoke up. Korthax recognized him as someone important, though he couldn't place why. "When we arrived 2,000 years ago, fleeing the Mordax Empire's expansion, we could have taken Earth easily. But the humans didn't meet us with weapons, they met us with open hands. They offered to share their world if we shared our knowledge." "That's impossible," Vexneal said. "The Altarians sent scout ships here 50 years ago. They never returned." The Altarian made a sound like crystalline laughter. "I was on one of those scout ships. We didn't disappear. We chose to stay. Earth offered us what the galaxy couldn't. Peace, safety, a chance to be more than conquerors, or conquered." The Procyon representative spoke next, their voice melodious. "Our exploration fleet came here 70 years ago, sent by our government to assess Earth for colonization. We found not a primitive world, but a confederation of species living in harmony. We saw cities beneath the oceans where a dozen species lived together. We saw colonies on Mars where former enemies worked side by side. We saw what the galaxy could be if it stopped fighting." Dan gestured to the window showing Earth. "Every species that came here as conquerors was given the same choice: leave and say nothing or stay and join us. Most who see the truth choose to stay." "But why hide?" Korthax demanded. "If you have such power, why pretend to be weak?" "Because the galaxy isn't ready," Kate Johnson answered. "Look at what just happened. You came here with 300 warships to enslave what you thought was a weak species. How many other empires would do the same if they knew what we really had?" The holographic display changed, showing underground cities that stretched for miles beneath Earth's surface, underwater domes that housed millions, hidden colonies on every solid body in the solar system, space stations folded into dimensions that most species hadn't even discovered yet. "We have citizens from over 200 species," Dan continued, "former enemies living as neighbors, scientists from different worlds working together, creating technology that no single species could develop alone. Your shields failed because they were designed by one species with one way of thinking. Our weapons work because they combine the knowledge of hundreds of different perspectives." General Tom Bradley entered the room, carrying a datapad. "Admiral, we've finished analyzing your fleet. You lost 43 ships completely, 97 are heavily damaged but repairable, and the rest have minor damage. Total casualties are 4,000 dead, 12,000 wounded. It could have been much worse." "Could have been worse?" Korthax stared at the human. "You destroyed my fleet." "We stopped your fleet," Tom corrected. "If we wanted to destroy it, none of you would be alive. Every shot was calculated. Every weapon was precisely aimed. We disabled your ability to fight while minimizing casualties. Even in war, we try to preserve life." The Venari representative, who had been silent until now, spoke with their melodious voice. "I came here as a refugee 150 years ago. My colony ship was fleeing the collapse of our empire. We had nowhere to go, no one to help us. Earth took in 40,000 of my people without question. Now my grandchildren grow up playing with human children, learning alongside Altarian youth, sharing meals with Procyon families. This is what the galaxy could be." Korthax felt his entire worldview crumbling. Everything he believed about strength, about power, about the right of the strong to dominate the weak, was being challenged. This is all lies, it has to be. No species shares power willingly. "Would you like to see for yourself?" Dan asked. Before Korthax could answer, the wall became transparent, showing a view of a city on Earth's surface. But this wasn't any human city from the broadcasts Earth sent to space. This was something else entirely. Buildings that seemed to grow from the ground like trees. Vehicles that flew without engines. Parks where beings from dozens of species walked together, their children, playing without fear of each other. "This is New Sydney," Kate explained, "one of our integrated cities. Population 12 million, representing 70 different species. Crime rate near zero. Educational achievement highest on the planet. medical advances that could cure diseases your empire hasn't even discovered yet. The display shifted to show factories where humans and aliens work together, creating technologies that merge different scientific traditions, schools where young beings of all species learned from each other, hospitals where doctors from different worlds combined their knowledge to save lives. Your weapons, Vexnil said slowly, understanding beginning to dawn. They're not human weapons. They're everyone's weapons. Exactly, Dan confirmed. The gravity manipulators came from Kalar science. The predictive computers use Altairian quantum mathematics. The relativistic projectiles were designed by human physicists but powered by Procyon energy technology. The powered armor combines Venari materials science with human neural interfaces and Zoltan field generation. Zoltan? Korthax said sharply. The Zoltan Empire fell 300 years ago. No, a new voice said from the doorway. We just stopped conquering. A being entered that Korthax recognized from historical records. The Zoltan were legendary warriors who had vanished mysteriously centuries ago. This one was old but still powerful, their 4 arms marked with SK. Admiral Korthax spent the next 3 days on Earth seeing things that should not exist. They brought him first to the city beneath the Pacific Ocean, traveling in a craft that moved through water as easily as through space. The city was called Deep Haven, and it housed 50 million beings from 40 different species, all living in massive domes that stretched across the ocean floor. Major Kate Johnson acted as his guide, along with Commander Vexnil, who had insisted on accompanying her admiral. They walked through streets where water surrounded them on all sides, held back by invisible barriers that felt solid to the touch, but looked like nothing was there. The barriers were invented by the Aquari, Kate explained, referring to a water-breathing species that had arrived on Earth centuries ago. They needed to live in water, but they wanted to interact with air-breathing species, so they created these fields that let both groups live in the same space. Korthax watched children playing, in a park where some swam through water-filled sections while others ran on dry ground, all in the same area. A human child laughed as an Aquari child splashed water at them through the barrier, the water stopping exactly at the invisible wall. This is impossible, Vexnil said for what must have been the 100th time. Different species don't mix, like this. They can't. The biological needs are too different. An elderly human woman overheard them and smiled. She was sitting on a bench next to what looked like a living plant with eyes. That's what we thought too, dear. I'm Martha, and this is Grobloom silently of the Verdani. We've been friends for 60 years. The Verdani rustled its leaves in what Korthax had learned was their version of a smile. Its translated voice came from a small device attached to its trunk. Martha teaches me human poetry. I teach her the songs of photosynthesis. Different species, different needs, but friendship is universal. They visited a school next where young beings of all species learned together. Korthax watched a human child helping a young Zalathi with a mathematics problem. The sight made him stop cold. There were Zalathi here, his own species living on Earth. The young Zalathi noticed him staring and walked over, her purple scales shining with youth and health. Are you from the fleet that just arrived? She asked in perfect Earth standard language. Yes, Korthax managed. You are Zalathi. What are you doing here? I was born here, she said simply. My grandparents came here 80 years ago. Their ship was damaged and Earth helped them. They chose to stay. I'm studying to be a doctor. I want to help people like Earth helped my family. After she left, Korthax stood in silence for a long moment, his own species living peacefully among others, studying to heal rather than to conquer. Everything he had been taught about Zalathi superiority, about their destiny to rule, was being challenged by a child who looked like him but thought nothing like him. They took him to Mars next, to show him the defensive installations that had helped destroy his fleet. But Mars was more than just weapons. Entire cities existed in underground caverns connected by tunnel systems that ran for thousands of miles. Here lived the descendants of the Procyon collective expedition that had supposedly disappeared, along with dozens of other species. General Tom Bradley met them at the Mars Command Center. Admiral, I want to show you something. He led them to a massive chamber where hundreds of beings worked at control stations. The walls showed displays from across the solar system, tracking every piece of debris, every ship, every asteroid. But what caught Korthax's attention was the operators. They weren't separated by species. A human worked next to an Altarian, who worked next to a Procyon, who worked next to a species Korthax didn't recognize. "This is how we defeated you," Tom said simply. "When your tactical computers calculated battle plans, they used Zalathi logic. When our computers calculated responses, they used the combined logic of 200 species. Every possible strategy your people could conceive, some species here had already encountered and defeated. Every weapon you used, someone here had, seen before and knew how to counter. Show him the memory wall," Kate suggested. Tom nodded and led them to another room. The walls were covered with images and names, thousands of them. "Every being who died defending Earth," Tom explained. "Every species, every volunteer who gave their life to protect this place. They're all remembered equally." Korthax read some of the names. Humans, Altarians, Procyons, Venari, and dozens of species he knew, all listed together without separation by rank or species. At the bottom of one section, fresh names were being added. The 43 ships his fleet had lost in the battle. "You're adding our dead to your memorial?" Vexenil asked, astonished. "They were warriors doing their duty," Tom said. "They died believing they were serving their people. That deserves respect, even if we were enemies. Death ends all conflicts." The third day, they brought Korthax to the hidden space station orbiting Earth in a dimension slightly shifted from normal space. Here was the center of Earth's real government, not the simple buildings shown on television broadcasts. President Maria Santos met him in an office that looked out on Earth from an angle that should have been impossible. "Admiral Korthax," she said, shaking his hand in the human fashion. "I'm sorry we had to meet under these circumstances." Maria was a small woman, older, with gray hair and kind eyes. She looked like someone's grandmother, not the leader of the most powerful military force Korthax had ever encountered. "You're the ruler of all this?" he asked. Maria laughed. "No one rules Earth, Admiral. We lead by consensus. Every species has representatives. Every voice is heard. Decisions are made by agreement, not by force." "That's inefficient," Korthax said automatically. "A strong leader makes faster decisions." "Fast isn't always right," Maria replied. "Your fast decision brought you here. Our slow consensus has kept us safe and united for centuries." She showed him the real Earth government in action. Representatives from every species on Earth debating, arguing, but ultimately working together. It was chaotic compared to the strict hierarchy of the Zalathi Empire, but somehow it worked. "We're about to vote on whether to reveal ourselves to the galaxy," Maria explained. "Some think it's time. Others believe we should wait another century. What do you think, Admiral?" Korthax was stunned. "You're asking me? You've seen both sides now. The galaxy as it is, built on conquest and fear, and Earth as it could be, built on cooperation and hope. Which future do you think the galaxy is ready for?" Before he could answer, alarms began sounding. Not attack alarms, but something else. Communication alerts from across the solar system. Colonel Dan Foster appeared on a screen. "President Santos, we're receiving a priority transmission from Zalathi space. It's Emperor Vaxtor himself." Korthax felt his scales go cold. The Emperor never communicated directly with military operations. This was unprecedented. "Put him through," Maria said calmly. The screen shifted to show Emperor Vaxtor, ancient and powerful, sitting on his throne of conquered worlds. His purple scales were almost black with age, his forearms each bearing weapons from different, conquered species. "Admiral Korthax," the Emperor spoke, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Your fleet has been silent for 3 days. Explain." Korthax found himself at a crossroads. He could lie, claim equipment failure. He could tell the truth and face the Emperor's wrath. Or, "My Lord Emperor," Korthax began, choosing his words carefully. "We engaged Earth as planned. The situation is complex." "Complex?" The Emperor's eyes narrowed. You have the most powerful fleet in our empire. How is conquering one primitive world complex? Korthax took a deep breath. Earth is not primitive, my lord. They possess technology beyond our understanding. They defeated our fleet in less than 2 hours. The Emperor's chamber erupted in shocked voices from his advisors. The Emperor himself remained silent for a long moment, then spoke quietly, which was somehow more terrifying than shouting. You were defeated? By Earth? Yes, my lord. But that's not the most important part. Earth is not one species. It's an alliance of hundreds of species living together, sharing technology, building something we never imagined possible. Impossible, the Emperor stated flatly. Species do not cooperate. The strong dominate the weak. This is the law of the universe. I thought so too, Korthax admitted. But I've seen it with my own eyes. Former enemies working together. Predator and prey species living in the same cities. Technologies we couldn't dream of because they require different ways of thinking combined. The Emperor leaned forward. You've been compromised, Admiral. They've affected your mind somehow. No, my lord. My mind is clear. Perhaps for the first time in my life. We've spent so much time conquering that we never stopped to ask what we were building. Earth has built something better. The silence that followed was deafening. Everyone in both locations held their breath. An admiral of the Zalathi Empire had just contradicted the Emperor. The punishment for that was death, usually slow and public. Finally, the Emperor spoke. Show me. For the next hour, Korthax shared everything he had learned. The hidden cities, the cooperative technology, the peaceful coexistence of species that should be enemies. He showed the Emperor recordings of Zalathi children playing with human children, of former conquerors choosing to become protectors. When he finished, the Emperor was quiet for a long time. His advisors. 1 year passed faster than Admiral Korthax had expected. He stood now in the same conference room where he had first learned Earth's truth, but everything about him had changed. His purple scales still gleamed, but his posture was different. Less rigid, less aggressive. He had learned to relax, something no Zalathi warrior was supposed to do. Commander Vexenil stood beside him, her tentacles moving in patterns of excitement rather than anxiety. She held a datapad containing enough scientific discoveries to revolutionize the Zalathi Empire's technology. But more importantly, she had learned why those discoveries were possible here and nowhere else. The Emperor will want to speak with you in 1 hour, Colonel Dan Foster informed them. Are you ready? Korthax considered the question. Was he ready to tell the Emperor that everything their empire was built on was not exactly wrong, but incomplete? Was he ready to suggest that the mighty Zalathi should learn from species they had considered inferior? I'm ready, he said. The past year had been an education unlike anything in his military training. He had lived among humans and dozens of other species. He had attended their schools, worked in their factories, trained with their military. He had seen children of predator and prey species playing together. He had watched former enemies become friends, then family. The most shocking moment had come 6 months into his stay. He had been visiting a hospital in New Tokyo, one of Earth's hidden cities, when emergency alarms sounded. A mining accident on an asteroid had injured dozens of workers. The hospital prepared to receive casualties. When the injured arrived, Korthax saw something that still amazed him. The workers were from 15 different species, but the medical teams treating them came from even more. A human doctor operated on a Zalathi miner while a Zalathi nurse assisted. An Altarian specialist worked to save a Prussian's life. No one cared about species. They only cared about saving lives. One young Zalathi had been badly crushed. The doctors said he needed blood, but Zalathi blood was rare on Earth. Without hesitation, Korthax had volunteered his own. As he lay on a medical bed, his blood flowing through tubes to save a young miner he had never met, he finally understood what Earth had built. Not just an alliance, but a family. President Maria Santos entered the conference room, followed by representatives from various Earth species. Admiral, before you speak with your Emperor, we have something to show you. The holographic display activated, showing the galaxy. Red dots marked systems controlled by various empires. The Zalathi Empire was one of the largest, controlling 17 systems. But then the display changed. Green dots appeared, scattered throughout the galaxy. Hundreds of them. "What are those?" Vexenil asked. "Hidden colonies," Maria explained. "Places like Earth where species cooperate in secret." "We're not alone, Admiral. The movement toward cooperation has been growing for centuries. Earth is just the largest and most organized. But there are others waiting for the galaxy to be ready." Korthak stared at the display. "There are hundreds of them. How did no one know?" "Because empires only look for threats or targets," Dan said. "They don't look for alternatives. These colonies hide, just like Earth, waiting for the day when they can reveal themselves safely." General Tom Bradley added more information to the display. "We've been in contact with them for decades. If the major empires decided to work together against us, these colonies would reveal themselves. The combined force would be greater than all the empires combined." "You're planning a revolution," Korthak said, understanding dawning. "No," Maria corrected. "We're planning an evolution. Revolution means conflict. Evolution means growth. We don't want to destroy the empires. We want to show them a better way." The communication system chimed. It was time. The screen activated, showing Emperor Vaxtor on his throne. But this time, the entire Zalathi High Council was present. This wasn't just a report. This was a judgment. "Admiral Korthax," the Emperor began. "1 year has passed. Tell us what you have learned." Korthax stood straight, finding courage in the presence of his new allies. "My Lord Emperor, I have learned that we were both right and wrong about Earth. They are not primitive. They are possibly the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. But their advancement doesn't come from conquest. It comes from cooperation." He began his report, showing everything he had documented. The cities, the technology, the peaceful coexistence of species. He showed them Zalathi citizens of Earth who had chosen to stay, who had found lives of meaning without conquest. "This is elaborate deception," one council member interrupted. "They've corrupted your mind." "Then explain this." Vexenil spoke up, surprising everyone by interrupting. She activated her own display, showing technical specifications. "This is a power source that produces energy equivalent to a small star, but it's completely clean and safe. It requires 3 different types of physics to create: Zalathi physics, Altarian mathematics, and human engineering. No single species could build it." She showed more examples. Medical technology that could cure diseases by combining different biological knowledge. Ships that could travel faster than anything the Empire had by merging various propulsion theories. Weapons that the Empire couldn't defend against because they operated on principles no single species could discover. "They share this freely?" another council member asked. "Among those who choose cooperation over conquest, yes," Korthax confirmed. "Earth offered to share this technology with us if we agree to peaceful relations." The Emperor leaned forward. "And what do they want in return?" "Nothing," Korthax said, knowing how unbelievable it sounded. "They want us to stop conquering, to start cooperating, to add our knowledge to theirs so everyone becomes stronger. That's not how the universe works," the Emperor stated. "The strong take from the weak." "That's how we believe the universe works," Korthax corrected, knowing he was walking on dangerous ground. "But Earth proves there's another way. My lord, I've seen Zalathi children growing up without learning to hate other species. I've seen our warriors using their strength to protect rather than conquer. I've seen what we could become." The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. "You've gone soft, Admiral. Lost your warrior spirit." "No, my lord. I've found a different kind of strength. The strength to admit when we're wrong. The strength to change. The strength to build rather than destroy." To everyone's surprise, the Emperor stood from his throne. In all his centuries of rule, he had never stood during a council session. "Show me a Zalathi living on Earth. I want to speak with them." Kate Johnson quickly arranged the connection. The screen split to show a middle-aged Zalathi male in what looked like a laboratory. He wore simple clothes, not military uniform. "I'm Dr. Zexaval," the Zalathi said. former commander in the Third Fleet, now a researcher in cooperative technologies. You abandoned your oath to the Empire, the Emperor accused. I found a greater oath, my lord. An oath to the future, to building rather than destroying, to leaving something better for our children. And you're happy with this weakness? Dr. Zexval smiled, an expression rarely seen on Zalathi faces. My lord, I'm stronger than I ever was as a warrior. I've helped develop medical treatments that will save millions of lives. My daughter is studying to be an engineer, working with humans and Altarians to design cities that can exist in space. My son teaches martial arts to multi-species classes, showing that strength can protect rather than harm. This isn't weakness. This is purpose. The Emperor turned back to Korthax. You truly believe this is better than Empire? My lord, Earth defeated our finest fleet in hours. They could conquer the galaxy if they wished, but they choose not to. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. They understand something we don't. Conquest gives you territory. Cooperation gives you allies. Which would you rather have when facing the unknown future? The council erupted in discussion. Some called for immediate war against Earth. Others wanted to explore possibilities of trade. The argument went on for an hour before the Emperor raised his hand for silence. Admiral Korthax, if we sent you back to Earth as an official ambassador, would you go? Yes, my lord. Even knowing you could never return to traditional Zalathi society? Even knowing many would call you a traitor? Yes, my lord. Because I would be building a bridge to a better future for our people. The Emperor looked at his council, then at the images of Earth's cities still displayed on the screens. The Zalathi Empire has conquered 17 systems. We are feared across the galaxy. But fear doesn't last. Every empire in history has fallen. Perhaps it's time to try building something that won't fall. He made a gesture and official documents appeared on screen. Admiral Korthax, you are hereby appointed as the Zalathi Empire's first ambassador to Earth. Your mission is to establish formal relations and explore possibilities of cooperation. The council members gasped. This was unprecedented. The Zalathi Empire didn't have ambassadors. They had conquerors and administrators. Furthermore, the Emperor continued, we will establish a trial program. Any Zalathi citizen who wishes to visit Earth for education or cultural exchange may do so. We will see if this cooperation produces results. If it does, perhaps the Empire needs to evolve. Maria Santos stepped forward. Emperor Vaxtor, Earth welcomes this decision. We're prepared to receive your ambassador and any citizens who wish to visit.